This is a pick-a-pile reading. These are the decks over here that I'm using right now. I can go over them. They are the Modern Witch. Let me see if I can get my finger. Like up here at the top. This is the Hedgewitch Botanical Oracle, the Celtic Spirit Oracle, here, Curious Cat Club Oracle and Playing Card Deck, and then my personal homemade angel message deck. And so you can see you've got two stacks here that you can pick from. Pile number 1 over here has a wooden clothespin on it, and pile number 2 over here has a 6-sided die. So you can take your pick here. Space with lots of flowers and seashells because Venus. And I'm ruled by Venus, so I always use lots of flowers and things anyways. And so you can take your pick here of which one you want. If you want pile number 1, the clothespin here, they all have similar, so there are tarot. We'll start with tarot and then move into oracle and into the angel messages, and they both have similar numbers of cards and from all of those decks. A die that came out on a 2. Welcome back. So you got pile number 1 or pile number 2, or you might be listening to both together. Sometimes I like to do that. I'll clear the air a couple times. That was kind of interesting. I'm going to put pile number 2 over here for now. And clothespin here for now. And this is actually a flip over. And so we have present, past, future. And then we'll go into the oracle cards here. So this was our tarot reading. I asked for them to share with us the present energy for this group of people who have chosen pile number 1 or who are listening to both. This is one of the energies really present with you, prominent in your life right now, and that is of 2 of Wands, and 2 of Wands reversed. So 2 represents trying to balance 2 opposing but complementary forces. And so the way that I like to think of this personally is the king and the queen coming together, essentially. It's these 2 considered opposing forces, and opposition could mean any number of things, any number of people, but to them it means a union. It's a divine union. So that's a really interesting thing. And this here reversed could be resistance to finding balance, and this to me speaks of basically an inner conflict, because wands deal with creativity, they deal with the way that we see, so basically our creative mindset. Wands can deal with our creative mindset and deal with how we see whether we need to be manipulative in order to be successful in creating the life we want, whether we feel like we have to be manipulative, being willing to use power dynamics to our advantage and not care much if we're harming other people or even harming ourselves, because usually those 2 things kind of go hand in hand. And so this is just this kind of off balance thing that says spiritually I'm not quite 100% right with finding balance between these competitive there may be competitive forces right now, because they don't see how they can work on the same team. So it's you got a basketball team, and there are 2 people who really, really want to get into the best college ever, because it's high school or whatever, and so they're trying to get into the best college ever, so they're both trying to just play the best, put on the best show, and be the most memorable for every game, and so they're so competitive with each other that they don't realize that they're part of the same team. Think of something like that. This is something going on though on an internal way. So this could be that idea of another mindset competing with ours. And so for me, that says with Two of Wands, that we really have felt like we are losing our power in a sense of way. We're feeling unbalanced in our power centers. So the ways that we derive power, with others in social settings, especially in social settings, but how do we feel confident? Are we in a scarcity place here where we feel if we don't, that we're not protected, that we're not, able to bounce back if somebody hurts us, that we're afraid of rejection, we're afraid of failure, we're afraid of just the hurt and the pain of going through relationship stuff. This could be quite a number of things could be going on here for this reverse Two of Wands. So that's a present energy, and it's really unfortunate. But the future energy, I'm going to jump to that and then I'll go back to the past. The future energy coming in is this: you want to resist rest, possibly, or we want to in this energy. We want to resist rest, and Four of Wands is structured rest. If your body keeps telling you at 10:30 a.m. that you need to take a nap, and you have that luxury in your home, go and take that nap. If you work late, and if you work during the day and it's late at night, and you get home at 5 and you like to put your feet up and watch TV and maybe even put headphones in and set a timer for an hour, and it's kind of not a full sleep nap, but it gives you 30-45 minutes is a power nap. I took psychology in high school, and I remember that was one of the questions the class had was how's the most effective way to nap, because you're telling us it's not. He's make sure you turn the lights off because it's not good for your brain to keep the lights on. And he's 30 to 45 minutes, but set a timer. Just set a timer that you'll wake up to, whatever it is. If you have to get a person to come in and bring you some water or some tea or something, do that. But find a way to structure your days around a little more rest to recuperate and deal with whatever's going on here, because this resistance to rest could be what is leading to this scarcity mindset. Is that if you're not feeling protected and you're scared of socializing, it may be so you're feeling protected could be you're avoiding certain social situations, or you're definitely avoiding social situations that you don't know for sure are going to make you feel really good. It could be because you're not spending enough time by yourself and recharging. And so the past energy is the Magician, creative person. So you've been putting out a lot of work. You've been creating from raw potential. What an amazing thing to do. We love that, and the world needs that. But also, it's a cycle. So respect your cycle. Find what your cycle is, to deal with creativity. And then what do you do after creativity? Where do you go, and what are you, and that's what this awareness, this stage can be about, building awareness, because that's another thing that I think swords represents, is building self-awareness and looking at our mental formations, is what in Buddhism it's called, from Thich Nhat Hanh I've learned that mental formation. So which is bigger than mindsets, because they could kind of be maybe similar, and overlap if in some ways, but basically it's the whole health of our mind. It's our beliefs that shape the way that we make decisions, and therefore what we actually end up valuing versus what we think we value and desire, and all these things, which all come from different parts of us. And this is how we make sense of all of that. And if we don't take that time to rest and recharge, where for me especially, I know that I'm swimming in other people's energy, and I kind of forget and don't know who I am. And I know that I actually thought about that as I was laying out all the cards and stuff today, that I was wow, it's so interesting, because all these things kind of used to trigger me. that like a lot of the things that I have, this cup, the cards that people gave to me, which, you know, those are people I really love, but so the person that gave me this cup is not somebody I talk to anymore, and the person that gave me this blanket that I'm sitting on, I don't talk to them anymore, and I have a ring that they gave me, and things like that, and it's just interesting to me because things like that in the past would have triggered me a lot, and been like, you know, I can't stop thinking about that person, or something bad about whatever, like the worst thing that I could associate with that item or that memory or that whatever, I would do it. And it was like an automatic thing that at some point in my life was really useful to me. At some point in my life that was really useful to me. It protected me. But I also had to realize I didn't want to keep doing that, and like being able to realize that I didn't have to take on the energy of those things. And so that happens to me. I want to say that happens to me because I have the ability to like touch an object that someone has like possessed or that someone owns or that is like deeply connected to somebody in some way, and I can like sense the energy that's been left on it. So like when I go thrift store shopping and stuff, I'm really careful about what I pick out has good energy on it, and or has been cleared. Those things happen sometimes. Like some people don't know it, but they know how to clear energy that work in those places, and it's a really interesting thing I found, and at least where I'm at locally. So you've been in this creative mode, which would be fire, which would be wands here, and so that's what this time of reflection and space is for. And so we have to be careful because if we keep resisting this rest here, the Four of Swords, they fall on their sword in this resistance mode. And so we just have to make sure that we let up on that resistance little by little by little. When we notice it, how can we be 10% less resistant and give into it and just say, oh, okay. That's funny. That reminds me of, what is it, Midnight Gospel, where they talk about it and they're like, okay, fine. And that's what the lady says. It's this lady that talks about a bunch of things, and I think she's like a comedian, and it's just an interesting. Okay, fine is such a, it's a perfectly fine way. You don't have to be like totally on board. Like I know that I've grown up around people who are very like religious or very intense, and just think that like you have to be like really enthusiastic about your faith and your belief and stuff like that. But that's okay. You know, God does not require you to be 100% faithful, truthful, like all the time, 100% all the way, especially in the beginning. I know that like I spent a lot of time at like 70-60%, and and now I'm like 110%, and so it's just one of those things that like when it's there is a point when you can reach when it's like kind of like infallible, like nothing could happen that would shake my belief that there's divine creation going on that is beyond what that the creation happens at a divine level. That's for me what divinity is about. So anyways, you're leaving this Two of Wands space if you can, and coming upright and learning to balance, so this person to me is like waiting on a balcony for someone to show up. They're like waiting on a balcony for someone to show up. They're looking at their phone. They've got two wands. One is for them and one is for whoever else that is supposed to be there with them. And they're waiting on them to show up. And they're just like, wow, I wonder if this person's going to get here. And they're getting maybe insecure. So what kind of thoughts come up for you whenever you feel disappointed, rejected, let down? If you are going on a date with somebody, I mean, what if you were going on a trip? Like, what if they didn't live here, they were traveling here, and they were supposed to meet here? They both had business things to attend to, and then they were going to meet here, and then she's checking her messages, and all of a sudden she gets an email, and he's, like, not going to show up or something. How would you feel about that? And how would that, like, how would you recuperate from that? Is that something that's going on for you right now? If not, if it's something, if it's not something like that, like maybe you've rejected someone too. How do you feel when you have to reject somebody? How do you feel whenever you have to like leave something that you thought was for you, Maybe you've had to, like I said, reject or decline something that seemed like it was good at the one stage whenever you were independent and they were independent and you felt like you could be interdependent beings together, and then you move on to this 2 of 1 stage and all of a sudden you're just like, yeah, this is not going to work. What I thought we had created back there, I realize maybe we're not on the same page, or we're just not headed in the same direction, and maybe there's nothing wrong with that person, like we want to remain friends with that person even, but how do we deal with that, and how do we keep from going into overproductivity mode? So this overproductivity is like what could be happening here, which is going to lead us to a lot of mental anguish, is what we're going to do, because especially if we're like workaholic, any kind of like addiction or thing, like any kind of vice, escapism through a vice is going to lead us to a mental anguish if we are in fact avoiding those feelings that come up and not facing them, not recognizing that they're there, and kind of going through them as they see fit, as they see fit. Because I think of emotions like a storm that passes through us. Let the storm pass through you, and take those moments of rest. If the storm passes through you and that means you need to lock yourself in the bathroom and cry because you got toddlers, do it. If it means you gotta turn all the lights off and take a nap at 3 p.m., do it. Whatever needs to happen. If you gotta hire a babysitter, if you gotta do this or that, and it's gonna take a little bit of rearranging, try to do those little extra care things. I think that's really important. And I think we're ready to move on to some oracle messages now. So we have adaptation and ephemeral. We have blackberry, which is adaptation. Blackberry adaptation. This is from Hedwig Botanical Oracle. Hedwig Botanical Oracle. And then ephemeral, daylily. I like daylilies. I found my little cushion. Okay. So I'm going to read from the book because they just, certain things always stand out to me. Oh, the daylilies on the front here. So you're a star. Okay. Blackberry. And it's like kind of confusing because I have to translate it in my brain. Douglas berry, Pacific blackberry, Pacific dewberry, trailing blackberry, and some water. Things like that used to be really complex for me. Like, I would make excuses not to drink water over and over and over again, and not to go to the bathroom and this and that. And it definitely stemmed from my childhood. Like, I don't want to get into it, but it definitely came from somewhere. So the Latin name of this plant, the blackberry that we're talking about, blackberry, is rubus for bramble, and ursinus for bear. Rubus ursinus. As it's frequently found in areas where bears are also found, and as of course they are staple foods. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. It's a widespread, well-known group of more than 375 species, so it's diverse. Okay, it can be distinguished from its relative, the raspberry, by whether the torus, the core or stem, stays with the fruit when picked. Raspberry cores remain on the plant. That's so true. I picked raspberries once. So the berry will be hollow as opposed to blackberries, which retain the pulpy core. Ooh, yummy. It's valued for its delicious fruit, which can be made into syrups, jams, jellies, cobblers, pies, ice creams, and countless other tasty treats. Dried and steeped into a tea, it can be used to treat intestinal disorders. I have a blackberry tea actually right now. Mouth ulcers and a host of other ailments. The leaf and fruit can be used to aid in healthy pregnancy, as they are rich in vitamins and folic acid. The acidity and tannins in the tea are said to help with skin disorders, and the high vitamin C content boosts the immune system. The oracle property related to this group of plants is adapt, or adaptation. Any gardener, forager, or hiker who has had to contend with the thorny arcs of this bramble can attest to the fact that no matter the terrain, this tenacious plant finds a way to flourish. Though often being thought of as a pest or invasive plant, the blackberry also provides shelter to many animals and food for butterflies, bees, moths, and all sorts of larger creatures, including humans. This little bee. So it's super valuable. One man's pest is another man's amazing resource. Ephemeral daylily. Let's go to daylily. Oh, and I went straight to it. Pregnant women wear daylilies around their waist to encourage the birth of a male child. Is somebody having a kid? Maybe we're creating something else. Are you creating a kid? Are you trying to get pregnant maybe with some people? Keep these things in mind for when you want to get pregnant. They said the blackberry tea. There's a recipe for blackberry tea in here too. I'll give it to you. It's quick. Let's do it. Blackberry tea. Pour 1 cup of boiling water over 2 teaspoons of dried blackberry leaves. Cover and steep for 10 minutes. Gather the blackberry leaves in spring and early summer. Later in the year, as fall weather sets in, the leaves may begin to grow mold and fungus, so you don't want those, especially once fall rains begin. So try to get in the spring and early summer on the dry days. Interesting. Okay, so back to the daylily, ephemeral. They resemble fingerling potatoes. Yum. Oh, you can make these. You can prepare these flowers with a batter and lightly fry them. What? Each daylily blossom only lives for a single day, reminding us of the temporary nature of everything in life. It can be very helpful in times of difficulty to remember that everything is fleeting. Some daylily blossoms at night, a metaphor for beauty born in the moments of darkness. That's true. Oh my gosh. So thinking about, especially if you are going through like relationship stuff, enjoying what's there, being adaptable whenever things come and go, and like enjoying the ephemeral, enjoying what is what's provided to you when it's provided to you. And I know that's been a big lesson for me over the last year, is like being willing to let go of the things even when they feel really, really right. It could just be a timing thing. It could be that person just needs to go do this, that, and the other, and they're going to have you date this, that, and the other. And it may not be the way that you wanted things to go, but it's the way that things are going to go. Whether you like it or not, no, I'm kidding. But these are the lessons that are here right now, are that you are an adaptable being, that you're capable of making it through even the roughest terrain and the roughest situations, and take it just the next hour at a time and the next day at a time. I've definitely had to do that several times myself, and that seems kind of drastic sometimes to people, but one day at a time. I'm just gonna make it through today. I know I've got this, that, and the other plan or whatever. I mean, I've done it without having a job, for a while, having to do, just gonna get through today, eat my 3 meals, make sure I take care of my body, and I'm listening to myself. And here I made it to the end of the day. And sometimes it's a really hard task in and of itself, but it slows us down. And then dealing with that ephemeral, what comes in and leaves at its own will and accord, and how that clinging that we do to what we want to stay is really what hurts us. That's the big lesson for me this year, was that it's the clinging itself that hurts, not anything else. I don't miss that person. I don't, it's like this, that, and the other. I don't miss those things that are gone, but the clinging, so by clinging, I was going in and finding good qualities. Why did that person leave? They were my rock. Why did that No, they were not. No, they were not. Because if they were, they would not have left. They would not have left whenever things got shaky. They would not have left over simple misunderstandings. It wouldn't have got to where it got, if that were the case. So no, they were not my rock, but I'm trying to say that was the best that I can remember having, so that must be the best that I can have, and so I'm not dealing with that person was good for me at a point whenever I really needed that around. They're no longer that for me. They were a rock for me at a time when I was young and I needed that, and now I'm in a new space. So I need something different. and I'll deal with what's ephemeral and just let it go and deal that I'm ephemeral sometimes in other people's lives, and it's not like the end of the world. Like, I have friends that I don't talk to every day, that, like, I have friends that I check in on a regular basis, and then I have friends that I talk to a couple times a month, or something like that, and you just, like, what we can maintain, what we can figure out how to work, if it can get as deep as we need it to get, if that's what we're looking for, is deep connection, true connection. Can we connect as much as we're trying to connect in whatever space and time that is we have? That's to me like, like appreciating and honoring the ephemeral. So here we are. I'm ready to move into the Celtic Spirit Oracle. Standing stones, ancestors, gateways, sacred. Then we have divination, guides, Ogham, tree spirits. My question is, do you talk to your guides? Celestial, cosmos, creation, spiral. So I'm going to read from the book for each of these. Celtic Spirit Oracle by Nicola McIntosh. 34, 35, 17. In case those numbers are important to me. I always love when they get sequenced ones. Standing stones are found at many locations all over the world. Many theories abound about what their uses were, and many agree that they are sacred places where one can make contact with ancestors. All those that have gone before us have gone back to the earth, taking with them all the lessons learned and becoming a group of collective energy. Standing stones may be dolmens or gateways. Some are burial tombs. Regardless of what shape they take, the energy suggests their sacredness and gateways to other dimensions. In journeying, I have often come across spirals carved in the stones, and if I place my hand on them, I'm transported to a different location. They are definitely portals of some type and hold incredible energy. You're being beckoned to contact your elders or ancestors, guidance from those that hold the knowledge you have not yet come to understand yourself. They may be living or past. They may be your direct lineage or from the group collective. It means a time for seeking knowledge to help you with making a decision or working on an issue that has you chasing your tail. When we find ourselves on a merry-go-round that we can't seem to find a way off, it usually requires a different perspective and outside guidance. Find a place in nature where you'll not be disturbed. Place your hand on the ground or hold a stone in your hand. Ask for the wisdom of the ancestors to help you work through what needs to be addressed. Ask for their guidance or help with looking at something from a different angle, or to help you grow in some way. Remember that one day you too will be an elder as you draw to you the life lessons that make you wise. You can travel to sacred standing stone sites, or physically or spiritually, a meditation or journey where you take your spirit or consciousness to the site. That's just saying you're not limited by your physical body if you want to travel to those sites. So this is a suggestion here to get in touch with what is sacred. If you are worried about contacting ancestors you don't want to contact, you can make that clear. I have no interest in contacting this like my grandfather, my grandmother. That I don't have any interest in contacting anyone on my father's side. I don't have any interest in contacting. You can set up those barriers and those boundaries if you're concerned. You can say you don't want to talk to your own. I definitely had to set up boundaries in my family ancestor channeling stuff. Divination. Guides. This is a sign called Fion's window. It shows the symbols called Ogham, which is an early form of Irish writing placed around concentric circles. Each of the Ogham letters represents a tree and also forms the Celtic tree calendar. Each tree, or Ogham, represents specific energies, much like rune symbols. Each tree has its own wisdom and knowledge to share with us, and therefore makes an amazing divination system, but also a powerful way to advance our spirituality. The tree spirits are here to guide you. It may be time to work with the energies of the Celtic tree calendar and discover a whole new meaning to life. one that may take you on a spiritual or on a journey of self-discovery, much like a spiritual pilgrimage. The trees have much wisdom, as we know, but there is so much that we can learn from them. You're being called to work more closely with these energies. Okay, there are 3 styve symbols down here at the bottom. On the card, here's the welcome card. There are 3 symbols. 1, 2, 3, and each one stands for something. Hazel on the left, apple in the middle, alder on the right, and hazel is known as the tree of knowledge. It seeks its help when in need of insight. So seek its help. Hazel, the tree of knowledge, when in need of insight, wisdom, creativity, abundance, and needing to tap into the source within you. Apple shares the month with hazel. It was a prized tree to the Druids for many reasons associated with the fairies, the magical Isle of Avalon, the symbolic of fruitfulness, harvest, and abundance. It also represents a time to make a decision between good or bad things for the self. It also means a time to rest and heal. Ooh. The alder tree is associated with water and therefore emotions in its feminine aspect, but also offers support and possesses a strong male energy to help with foundations and spiritual protection. Okay, so you can call on the apple tree, the alder tree, or the hazel tree. Interesting. As guides, if you want to. Celestial, number 17, celestial. Cosmos, creation, spiral. The spiral was an important symbol for the Celts. It symbolized many things, but mostly it represented movement and the constant spinning of cycles and of the stars in the night sky. The North Star was believed to be the location of what they termed as heaven. The stars spiraled in the sky, which became the pathway to how souls ascended to heaven. A spiral has no beginning or ending, it just is. When we think of creation, we think of there being a beginning. A beginning usually needs a force to create it. So where does this force come from? It needs movement, it needs motivation, and an energy or force behind it to make it start. What are you about to create? What do you need in order to make it happen? And how will you continue to keep it moving? To keep something moving, it needs a consistent flow of energy, a sustainable force. In drawing this card, you may be asked to look at what drives your momentum. Is it sustainable? Will it be enough to keep everything moving, or are you driving things too fast, which will end up in burnout? We draw energy from the earth, so we can also draw upon the energy from above us, other realms, the moon, the stars, the sun. All are energies that we can work with, keeping in mind that we're made from stardust. Connect with these energies and explore new options for keeping your cup full. Sustainability is key here to keep the spiral forever in motion. Wow, that was powerful. I kind of zoned out there for a second. I don't even know what I'm reading here. I have to play the video back. Got a couple oracle cards from the Curious Cat Club Oracle. These are always fun. Some more messages, advice for us. 2 of Clubs. Trailblazer, facing fear. You are a trailblazer. You are facing the fear and doing this stuff and kicking butt. Taking chance, risk, which leads to creative and innovative decision making and lots of awesome things. Fun. Look at this cat having fun. Oh, you can't see. Look at this cat having fun. We've got like dyes and stuff all around them. And Joker. This is the fart one. The air you breathe, environment. So like making sure that you are staying in and building environments that make it easy for you to face fear, that makes it fun and playful and like makes you feel enthusiastic about facing fears and change and things like that. So make sure you're fostering environments that do that. And this is from my angel card deck. These are homemade cards that I've got here. We have the 3 of Clubs, Queen of Hearts, Ten of Hearts. I'll read them here real quick. So we've got 3 of Spades, grieve, grow, create. Practice holding space in groups and alone. This is about grieving in communion. Spades would be swords. This is about how hard it is for us to share our suffering. Sometimes that can be like we feel like no one has suffered the same way we have. People won't relate to us. People are committed to misunderstanding us. So this is about exploring the core beliefs that we hold and why we find it hard to express our grief, and how good does it feel whenever you find someone and you say to them about your grief, you spill out, you're like, can I just get this off my chest, or can I share this with you, or I'm really going through it, and they say more. And so, they hold space for you and you hold space for yourself then. How does that feel? Like, does it feel relief, or does it feel more stressful? How can you get into situations and make sure that you're finding more people that, obviously aren't going to be shitty about it? Queen of Hearts, your tender heart can lead to psychic and intuitive gifts developing soon. So notice that if you feel like you can sense extra information, that's really how it feels, I'll be honest. If you feel like you can sense extra information than what other people know in the room, in the conversation, in the dynamic, it can be over an email or whatever. I've literally had it happen so many times where it's like, I know this person's saying this, but I know that all this other stuff is also going on. And I don't mean that to say in a codependent way where you're trying to read their mind or something. Ask questions. Always ask questions. If you feel like you really know something, you'll still freak people out just as much. If you've gotten psychic into it, they'll be like, how the fuck would you even know to ask a question like that? But just ask the question. Ten of Hearts with the Ten of Cups. Divine love feels more like ease and harmony than passion and happiness. Aim for peace. I wrote happiness, and I remember thinking that's gonna cause that could be a point of contention for some people. Happiness to me is about that marketed happiness. It's about that idea of happiness that it's like a mom and a dad in a heteronormative marriage with kids, house, jobs. Maybe the mom gets to gets to do whatever she wants to. Gets to create her own business. There's this whole setup that's the American dream kind of right now. I'm gonna see my quotations. American dream right now, and think about if you want to know, if you want to manifest divine love, and we all do, right? And whatever that is for you, divine love. If you want to manifest that, what will it feel like? How easy and harmonious will your life feel? And what will you do with that peace when it gets there? How will it change you and behave in that way now? And that's it. Thanks for joining me for pile number 1. Alright, hello and welcome back. I'm here for pile 2. I have to take a short little break. But here we are for pile number 2 that has the 6-sided little game die. Came from a pack of dice that had landed on 2 when I rolled it. I shook it in my hands and everything and rolled it, and it came out on 2. And I was like, oh, so you want to be for pile number 2? And Spirit was like, yep. It was really funny. Just like that. There it is. Present, past, future energy for pile number 2. About the 4 of Wands right now. So 4 of Wands is about passing through a threshold is what's going on here, and it's it could be there's a lot of work ahead of us. This is just setting up the way in which we're going to go about doing that work. This is looking forward into seeing that we have a path ahead of us that's going to require us to and possibly restructure, but structure out right now. What are we going to put our time and energy into? What sorts of things? What are we not going to put our time and energy into? And where are we investing our resources so that we are growing, and in this way, in the spiritual way, in a creative way. So this is where we get to a time that we are finding carving out really our space of where we exist within, like, behind. Oh, sorry, I forget, you can see it. Let's see. It's too dark now. See. Okay, so here's the card. Four of Wands. There's like a cityscape behind them, and then they're out in like in a more rural area, like outside of town, and at places like that, like where I live. And I'm imagining them, like, maybe they're just friends, maybe they're not getting married, maybe they're just meeting other people here. But they're creating some kind of like community space outside of the normal city that's behind them, and just like carving out their space. Like, maybe this is still within city limits, and it's just a place where a bunch of people can get together and chill and get to know each other and talk about things that are different at a different pace. Be more present. Like, it's just a very different. It's creating a space within a space that is like a cocoon for you. It's protected to you, and whatever that means. If that means cultivating relationships that also mirror that. So, okay, this is what I'm getting. This is what I'm getting is to say, like, look at what you are craving from other people, drawn to in other people, and those kinds of things, and figure out what it is that you are your needs. And there are lots of ways, like, you can literally go on YouTube and search for, like, meeting my own needs, and they'll tell you, like, step by step, like, how they think that you can best like evaluate what your core, like, long-term needs are. Because so we have like levels of needs. You have long-term needs, you have kind of like, mid-range needs, and then you have immediate satisfactory needs. And like, we all know, like, food and shelter and things like that are long-term needs, but like it goes beyond that. It really does, like, to emotional and like other needs that we need, spiritual, like all kinds of levels. So it's something worth looking into and figuring out what your core needs are that really help you feel like your authentic self. That's what I'm getting. Oh, this is like really blown out now. Jeez, I have to close my blinds a little bit. That helped very much, but not really. I mean, that's okay. I think that's good for all of us. Yeah. Four of Wands is like building up the structure that leads to you feeling like spiritually, like, aligned with yourself, like being able to have a good, like, relationship with your, like, your core self, your higher self, whatever, and whatever else is sacred to you. If that's friendship, if that's family, if that's marriage, if that's whatever it is that you're seeking, at the end there to create at the end of the Ten of Wands. It could be a single life and making friends and making community spaces that support other people that you feel you share some identities with, or some experiences, or some ideas, or whatever that you want to connect with. Again, so that's that current energy right now, and what's leaving us behind is dishonesty, is being manipulated, attacked, feeling like being around people who we just felt like we couldn't trust, and we stuck around trying to get them to clear that up, that confusion. There's been confusion in connecting with people in the past. There's been confusion and hurt, and perhaps we were the ones wielding the sword, trying to be very honest, and we ended up hurting ourselves because what we saw was honest, but it wasn't kind to us. And so there's just some way that this is, like, we've been looking at how we played a part in that ourselves. Like, we've been taking accountability on what exactly happened. What the fuck happened here? So then Queen of Swords is here. What we have in the future is that we're moving into this, like, this is our persona, our status. Like, we're gonna be, it's kind of hard to see it. There we go. See, it's gonna blow it out a little bit. But anyways, Queen of Swords sits on their throne, and they're, like, really diplomatic. Like, this is a person who is using that sword to cut away decaying parts. Like, they're not, like, hurting people, but they may tell people things they're not like ready to hear if they're not respectful of people's boundaries, if they feel like they've been like if they've been hurt, if they feel like somebody's trying to be like weird or like cross over a boundary with them, they may cross that boundary with somebody else and like, you know, read them for filth. That kind of thing could be what comes from here. Like in a not necessarily in a negative way, in a way that is like intended for their growth. It's like finding their insecurity and trying to find a way to like get them to see that like you see their insecurity, other people see their insecurity, and if they just stopped acting like they, you know, if they tended to themselves and cut away that dead part and let those core beliefs, when I say cut away that dead part, I mean the core beliefs and the values that that person has been aligning with that aren't in, that they've been maybe punishing themselves for, they've been you know, that have been keeping them from being their fullest best self. So it's always like with that like growth mindset, like if they're pushing somebody, it's they may step over a boundary because a boundary has been stepped over with them, or because they're pushy. Like that would be more a reversed status. But this is somebody who is doing that already. Like they have a growth mindset. They're in abundance. They know that like honesty is the best policy for the most part, and that but also to respect those boundaries. And it's like mental boundaries is understanding that like being able to respect and seek out people's boundaries when they are not quite I mean, let's face it, say mature enough to like really know how to advocate for themselves and their boundaries. Like there are lots of people who have been through like lots of and abuse situations. Like I've been abused, and there was a time whenever I did not have that, and I was gravitating towards people who would ask me lots of questions about my boundaries and my desires and things like that, because I needed that. Otherwise, I felt like things felt super chaotic and very confusing, and I didn't like that, and I ended up in situations that got me meeting more harm and violence that way. So that's what I think is going on here too, is this person is helping people be more respectful of their boundaries. Like they're respecting and checking in on their boundaries even whenever they necessarily aren't. So that's an energy that we're stepping into here, is that like if we meet these dishonest, and we're not going to meet those same dishonest people again. We're not going back to those old friend groups. We're not stepping back from the Queen of Swords and saying, give me that sword instead again, because they're different swords. But we're going to, and look at those boots that they're wearing. They're wearing cute boots in there. So I want those boots. Sorry. This is like stepping out again, and should we encounter dishonesty in the next cycle, we know that we can recognize it and choose how to set a boundary there with it, even like subconsciously, like energetically. Like we don't have to like, you know, call people out on being dishonest, but if we feel that we need to, we also know how to do that with our words and to be like diplomatic, again, is what this person's really great at, and to not avoid conflict when it's right there in front of you, but to also like approach a conflict as like you're on the team with the person that you're in conflict with, and the conflict is with the problem y'all are facing. And so it's probably like focusing more on closer relationships in that way, but also being willing to talk about like power dynamics and violence and domination and tactics and techniques and strategies and things like that that are showing up in the way that people are. So like when people are using, like say hey, you're rationalizing, and like, you know, hey, you know, you're doing this, that, and the other, but it's like kind of like, you know, media literacy for real life, like call people out on what is going on, but also educating ourselves on that. So like this person has gotten, you know, when we get there, we're gonna make a video cut off for no one. We'll have a fuller understanding when we get there of what is like what all those things look like. And it's because we're finding that out about ourselves. Like we've moved, that's what this like whole suit for me is about, is like building self-awareness. And by building self-awareness, we then become this like this figure that can go out and can be a model so that other people can see how they can get there too. Like it's not like to say that we're here and we're the queen and nobody else can be, like everybody can be in that position. So that's for the tarot for pile number 2. Let's move on. Take some water. So this is again from the Botanical Oracle, Hedwig Botanical Oracle. Hedwig Botanical. We got caution and abundance. Ooh. Wormwood, caution. Hollyhock, abundance. Sorry, I'm about to cough or sneeze or something. Hollyhock, abundance. And so this is, let's start with wormwood, which is interesting. Artemisia, that is the scientific name, which refers to the Greek goddess Artemis, the goddess of the hunt and the protector of the forest. Artemis gave the plant to Chiron, the centaur healer, who then derived medicine from its leaves. In turn, he named the plant in her honor. The better-known name of Artemisia is wormwood, comes from Middle English, and was given to the plant much later. It's easy to identify. Has many applications, but it's well known as a primary ingredient in absinthe and in other spirits, including vermouth and 18th century beer before hops were widely used. It can repel pests and ward off all sorts of ailments, but it is also toxic in some quantities. It is in much the same way caution can save your life or keep you out of sticky situations. Fear or anxiety can also be toxic. Many situations require prudence and a look before you leap attitude. If you are seeing this in an oracle context, ask yourself what areas of your life may need further examination or investigation. Channel the Queen of Swords. What? Channel the Queen of Swords with her clear insight and ability to cut through deception and confusion. The Knight of Pentacles provides a different perspective, speaking of caution as an operating system. Here is a knight that never charges in. He asks for a measured, longer-term approach rather than impulsivity when making decisions. So there you go. Options. Interesting. I love whenever things like that sync up. Abundance, hollyhock. Abundance, hollyhock. By the H. Hollyhock. Malo Althea. The entire hollyhock is edible. Flowers, leaves, seeds, roots, and all are safe to eat, but not particularly delicious. And they contain vitamin C and B as well as iodine and zinc. The flowers can be dried, ground, and turned into dye. You can use as dye for food, fabric, and handmade paper. Speaking of paper, the fibrous stems of the hollyhock can be used in much the same way as the mulberry to make a strong fibrous paper or parchment. This plant is used in folk medicine to treat everything from skin injuries like burns or lesions to cough and inflammation. The flower buds are used medicinally for respiratory illness, the shoots to ease difficult labor for pregnancy, childbirth, and even the seeds in a hot tisane are said to help reduce the symptoms of fevers. The root is astringent and demulcent, which I don't know what that means. It is crushed and applied as a poultice to ulcers. Internally, it's used in the system of dysentery, in the treatment of dysentery.
The current weather is 52 degrees Fahrenheit.
Alexa, please stop. When dry, the woody stems of the hollyhock make good kindling. The oracle property of the hollyhock is abundance. Aside from being a lovely ornamental plant with many human applications, hollyhocks provide food and shelter to hummingbirds, beetles, and moths. It's a favorite flower of several species of butterfly. Abundance is a word we often associate with monetary wealth or physical possessions, but abundance is better measured by including health, friends, happiness, and well-being in our assessment. Embracing abundance isn't an exercise in accumulation, but rather a willingness to live gratefully and with open arms. Like the hollyhock, we may find our place in a garden by being a blessing to others. We may find our place in the garden by being a blessing to others. Accept the things you have in your life rather than focusing on things you don't. And look at the many ways you can be of service to your community. Living with gratitude and open arms will attract others to you and provide opportunities for others to see your value. In the Victorian language of flowers, hollyhocks are associated with fecundity, Fecundity, and the barns of love, much like the Empress and the Queen or the Queen of Pentacles from the Tarot. The hollyhock is traditionally planted in a witch's garden to bring abundance and whatever that word was, and is strongly related to the pagan holiday Lammas, which celebrates the harvest season and expresses gratitude to nature for her generous gifts. Okay, there we go. Cool. Okay, we just had two cards for this one. Surrender and the Green Man. From the Celtic Spirit Oracle, we have Surrender and the Green Man. And I'll read from the book about those. I think we went over. I'll make sure I went. I'm gonna pause and go back. Okay. When we went over abundance and caution, abundance came up whenever we were talking about Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords knows that they've moved out of a scarcity mindset and moved into an abundance mindset, and perhaps it even came up in your tarot cards. But these are like two ends of the same spectrum. Kind of caution to abundance is like, don't get stuck in a I have to be overly cautious. Like with every decision I make, am I making it out of I know that there is enough? Even if I have to reframe the way that, like, I'm going to be restricting myself. I'm saying I'm not going to, so let me give an example. I have $20 in my account and my paycheck doesn't come through for a couple of days. So I got $20 in my account and it's just me. I've got to eat for 1, 2, 3 days, whatever. And I've got some food here, so I know that I can do, like, breakfast every morning, and that's no big deal. And I've got, like, things I can snack on throughout the day, so, like, I've got snacks and breakfast covered, but I definitely need, like, one big meal each day. And so I've got to figure out with that $20 what I'm going to get. Am I going to go get a few little things, and I'm going to make some things here? Do I have the things that I need here? And so when I'm making those decisions, if I have to reframe that, like, no, I'm not going to go get fast food today, instead of saying, like, it's because I don't have enough money that I'm going to not get fast food, I say it's because I have this much money that I'm going to invest it in getting food I can make myself so that I can ensure my food is made with love, And so it's like reframing that way that it's not a punishment. We're not going without fast food because we're not rich enough. Like, that's not it. We could make the choice. We could go get the fast food, and that would mean that we'd have to buy less food for us to make at home. And so, maybe we wanted to make a particular dinner. We had something left over that we wanted to use up, but we needed another ingredient to go with it, like some cheese to put on it or whatever it was. So anyways, that's what I'm seeing here, is that, like, when we're making decisions, how can we reframe the decisions so that, like, they're coming from a place of abundance. Okay, now that I said that, we can go on to the Celtic Spirit Oracle. We've got the Green Man. 12-13. Surrender, let go, freedom, flow. 13, the Green Man. Nature, connection, source. Wow. I like it. Surrender is the fairy of freedom and flow. She's let go of everything holding her back, and she's ready to fly, be free, unrestrained. You can feel the sense of peace that's come over her, and she's open to whatever's coming her way, eyes closed and trusting that what lies ahead is exactly what she needs and has asked for. Surrender is here to teach us that whatever you're holding on to, maybe it's time to let go and let yourself be free. Sometimes we hold on to behaviors or beliefs that may have served us in the past, but no longer do so in the present. By drawing this card, it's time to take a look at these patterns or situations that are holding us back. Is this in my best interest? We can ask ourselves this. If not, take steps to change. Let go. Move ahead. Start following the path that gives you joy, as long as it's in your best interest and harms no one, including yourself. Which is like a hard thing to figure out sometimes, but you will figure it out. You will. The more you keep practicing, just saying to yourself that you don't want to harm yourself. Like, it sends that message to the subconscious, because you're consciously putting that out there, and your conscious mind is putting it out there that, of course, I don't want to harm myself, but our subconscious may be saying, well, that's not what you're saying to me. So, surrender may also be trying to tell you to be yourself. Don't follow the crowd if it isn't you. Create your own path and be true to yourself. Follow your intuition, the gut feeling that never lets you down. That is your true self. Or call on your spirit guides. The more you listen to your intuition, the more you touch in with yourself, the sacred spirit guides. A wonderful feeling of freedom comes when you no longer worry about what's ahead and take your hands off the steering wheel and step into flow. To me, this is like that Christian version, is I can do all things through God, and that's something that I always say. Like, I say goddess, but I can do all things with goddess by my side. I can do all things through the strength that goddess has given me. And I can, those are things that I say to myself a lot. And I think that's what's being said here, is that, like, when I ask questions, whenever I approach situations and have decisions to make, I say, like, is this in my best interest? I don't want to harm myself. I don't want to harm anyone else, but I want to make the best decision possible. So help me, know what to do to move forward. And I think about it for a while, and sometimes one of them declines you, rejects you, 13, the green man. Nature, connection, source. The green man beckons to all who wish to follow. He teaches us that there is no separation between human beings and the natural world. We are a part of nature. We are nature, whether we act like it or not. No one is above the fact. The closer we become to recognizing this connection, the more we feel at peace. The separation is merely an illusion we have created through being busy. That's right. Nature invites us to slow down, to learn how to reconnect. It's time to take up gardening, walking in nature, getting your feet in the earth and slowing down. Nature isn't out there being busy, all busy and not resting. Nature grows and rests when needed because it is in tune with the energy around it. Nature doesn't exhaust itself by pushing too hard to make things happen. It all happens in its own time. The green man also represents the masculine side of nature, which can mean strength, vigor, and growth. However, it can also represent descent, destruction, and death. The female counterpart to the green man is the green woman, and the two obviously complement one another, just like, I'm not going to say that, both need each other to keep balance. In drawing this card, it may be asking you where you may be out of balance and require more of the feminine nurturing qualities to bring you back to your center. There's another card. Both cards are incredibly caring because they are both you in some form. As within, so without. By connecting to these energies and nature, you essentially find a deeper connection to yourself. That's for sure. Is there a green woman card? I've never seen. There's a lot of cards I haven't seen. There is. Well, one day I'll get there. One day. I said I was going to do it a bunch of times. Anyways, we've got from the Curious Cat Club Oracle, got Ace of Diamonds Cat, Seven of Clubs Cat, and then I'll read from the book. Put these cards away and meditate. That's to me also. I'm like getting sleepy over here. I'm gonna meditate on some queso and chips after this. Seven of Clubs, training, being a badass, meditative movement, exercise, some kind of strength. I mean, obviously this cat is weightlifting. If you're doing weightlifting, if you're doing whatever it is that you do, whatever kind of exercise, whatever kind of way that you like get your body stronger, more active, more aligned in its best condition, so on and so forth, the more you do that. How can you do that in a mindful way? How can you add more mindfulness and meditation in, 5 minutes before bed, 5 minutes after you wake up in the morning, something like that? How can you add more of these things into your day right now, especially in the next few days? Like, you may be feeling extra energy. That might be the things you're putting them into. And one of my favorite tips about, whenever you like don't want to meditate, what you want to do is go out and socialize and go out and, do things. That is the time when we're actually resisting the being, and that is the time whenever meditation will probably benefit us the most. And so you may find that you come into some really interesting ideas or creative things, but you may come into something really interesting if you're resisting meditation. The only way that I don't that I let myself resist meditation is if I'm tired. If I'm so sleepy that I'm like, it's not gonna work. I will sometimes put on a what's called yoga nidra meditation, and it's essentially where they talk you through like sleep stages, but you still don't want to fall asleep during it. You don't want to be tired, so tired that you can't wake up, but like a daytime nap. Like it could easily replace a daytime nap, I think. So that's what came up there. Angel messages we have are the Joker. Time to take that leap of faith into the unknown. We will catch you. So that was again that same message. That's like, have that faith. That was the fairy surrender. Was to let go and know that not that nothing will happen, not that everything will be perfect, not that you know exactly what you're doing. None of those things have to be true. None of those things have to be solid. But it's more about it will come when what you need to know, what you need to do, how you need to act. All of those things will come to you as you go, because our job is to regulate and manage ourselves so that we're just in the present moment and again in tune with the energy around us. That's what that Spirit Oracle, Celtic Spirit Oracle cards were saying. 6 of Spades. Releasing this baggage is a rite of passage in your transformation. Mental baggage, because this is 6 of Swords essentially. So like if you're like releasing some kind of old belief or old like understand, so like the way you saw a relationship, the way that you like saw that, like what's a common thing I think that I see in a lot of people's families, that happened in my family too, was like the idea that like the thing, like blaming our parents for the things that happened in our family because of poverty, and like we didn't understand that when we were younger, so it was like a bitterness. And so like being able to release that kind of baggage is like a rite of passage that takes you closer to being able to be your authentic self, because you no longer feel that you have to be like at arm's length from a person or from a certain type of relationship, or you don't go on trying to perfect that relationship through replicating it in other ways. That's an interesting thing. So it's a part of our going through the cycle that we're going through, a part where we're releasing something, and releasing anything mental, releasing of old beliefs could be a quick, like really fast, fun, like feeling like we're getting better and clicking into new mindsets, having really interesting conversations, having things like that. Yeah, I think that's kind of my mind stopped. So I'm gonna take a drink of water. Ace of Clubs. You have access to the universal power of creation and birth. Harness your potential through authenticity, through commitment. Be the authority on your potential. This is a lot of parts to this message, and I remember trying to write this and I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna not all fit. You have access to the universal power of creation and birth. Whatever you want, you can create it and you can birth it into this world. There was a time whenever the internet was like a figment of everyone's imagination, and a few people's imagination probably, and it became this huge worldwide thing. Like now, like it's considered like inhumane to not allow it to be accessible in rural areas, and that's true. Don't get me wrong, because it is, like, it's information at your fingertips. It would be completely unfair and awful, destructive. So, harness your potential through authenticity. Harness your potential through being authentic to yourself, being authentic to your word, being authentic to your values, like how do you align, how do you take actions, make decisions in your daily basis. That is, if somebody's going to ask you, what are your values? Okay, cool. How do you live up to those values every day? Harness your potential through commitment. What do you commit to, and how does that prove that you're an authentic person? How does that prove that you value what you value? You know, those are all things. And be the authority on your potential. Don't let anyone else tell you what your potential is like, because that's letting them manifest in your life, because they don't see potential in themselves and they don't want you to go on beyond them. So they're giving you their old mindset stuff. Like, they're working with you. They're talking to you as if you are the younger, the younger version, the past version of them. If that makes sense. And they're trying to keep you back where they have already been, so that when they go, they know they're going on forward, because whatever's happening to you isn't happening to them, or whatever, But be the authority on your potential. If you have to present a problem to somebody, you don't have to tell them that you feel incapable, that you don't know what to do, all those things. I feel like I can handle this. I could really use your help. I feel like I could do it a lot better with your help, but I can understand if you can't help me also. And you can think of a way to ask for people to collaborate with you on things without, even if you are feeling like you're in a position where they would be really more helping you out. You don't always have to downplay your potential ability to add a lot to it once you get more support, once you feel more supported. Because that's the thing, is when somebody else is there, aces stand on their own, and then they move on to that 2 immediately. And if it's an upright 2, which we had a 2 in our first pile, it's finding balance. And so it's like, you have to be assured, you already have to be assured before you leave the 1 spot and move up to the 2. You have to be assured that you have the potential to get all the way to the 10. And you leave on that blind faith. And that's what this is. So this is a gift to say that, like, you'll get as far as you believe in yourself. If you believe that you only have the potential to get as far as other people tell you, then that is as far as you will get. If you believe that you're the authority, the final true authority, and that no one else who comes in and tries to be an authority on your potential or on where you've been or what, who you could be based on what you've done, if you don't take in other people's perspectives and viewpoints on you as much, and you decide that you know exactly who you are and what you're going to accomplish, then you'll go further. Probably. In my experience, that's true. So anyways, that's your message today. Thank you for joining.